Look, Denver Broncos family, we need to talk about something that could completely change the course of this season. And when I say change, I'm not exaggerating one bit. What happened in Week 8 against the Cowboys was just the beginning of a situation that could define whether we go far in the playoffs or whether we'll be watching from home. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm going to reveal here might leave you thinking about our team's future in the coming weeks. 5 straight wins. That's right, Broncos Country. 5 consecutive victories. We were flying, dominating opponents, showing the entire league that Denver is back to compete for real. But then came that moment every football fan fears. That moment when you see one of your best players heading to the locker room early. And we're not talking about just any player. We're talking about the best defender in the entire NFL. We're talking about the current Defensive Player of the Year. We're talking about Patrick Surtain II. The pectoral injury he suffered in the game against Dallas is no joke. And now the confirmed news is that he'll be out for a month, or maybe even longer. Let me repeat that. A month or more without the league's best cornerback. Without the guy who turns all-pro receivers into invisible players. Without the one who shuts down an entire side of the field. Now you're probably thinking, but we won that game against the Cowboys, didn't we? Yes, we won. But look, I need to be honest with you. Did our secondary hold up? It held up. But it wasn't the same thing. Not even close. It's like taking the main piece out of a puzzle and trying to make it work the same way. You can improvise, but everyone feels the difference. Riley Moss is going to take on more responsibilities. Jaquan McMillian is going to have to elevate his level. Chris Abrams-Drain is going to appear more. And there's Jahdae Barron, that kid who was drafted and who many people considered first-round material. Now, looking back, how lucky were we to have selected this young man, because he could be the key to holding down the fort during this complicated phase. But here's a question that won't go away, family. Is this enough? Will betting only on the next man up take us where we want to go? Is the front office comfortable leaving this secondary the way it is while other AFC teams are reinforcing themselves? Let me tell you something. There's a deadline coming. November 4th, a Tuesday, right after Week 9. And when that day comes, the Denver Broncos will be at 7 wins and 2 losses, or 6 wins and 3 losses. Either way, we'll be in playoff position. Either way, we'll be fighting up there. Either way, we'll be showing the entire league that this team is for real. But here's the crucial point I need you to understand. Being in playoff position is not the same as being prepared to win in the playoffs. And there's a huge difference between being good and being dominant. We want to be dominant, don't we? Subscribe to the channel now, Broncos Country, because the next few weeks are going to be intense, and you can't miss any analysis, any update, any detail about what's going to happen with our team. Click that red button, and you won't regret it. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. What should the front office do? What's the obvious next move? And when I say obvious, it's because it really is. There's no mystery here. The answer is staring everyone who understands even a little bit of football in the face. Denver needs to go to the market, needs to be aggressive, needs to add pieces before this November deadline. And I'm not talking about adding for the sake of adding. I'm talking about strategic moves that can make the difference between a good season and a historic season. Let's think together here. Tight end? Yes, we still lack someone consistent at that position. Someone who's that reliable blocker, that safe target in the middle of the field. Wide receiver? Maybe. You can always have more quality options to help our quarterback. Inside linebacker? Even with Dre Greenlaw coming back in Week 9, which by the way is great news, it could still be an area for improvement. But now, with Surtain out, add cornerback to that list. And not just any cornerback, family. We're not talking about signing someone to be 3rd or 4th in the rotation. We're talking about bringing in someone with experience, someone who's already played at a high level, someone who can help hold down the fort while our star recovers. Because look at the situation. It's not just a regular cornerback who's out. It's the Defensive Player of the Year. It's the best defender in the entire NFL. It's the guy that Pro Bowl receivers have nightmares about. It's the one who completely changes the opposing offense's game plan. Losing a player of this caliber is not like losing any other athlete. I know there's that next man up mentality, that philosophy that everyone has to be ready to step up when called. And look, I totally respect that. It's part of football culture. It's part of what makes this sport special. But there's also a reality. When you lose the best player on your defense, you need to do something about it. Think with me. How many times in a franchise's career does an opportunity like this come up? Look at the AFC now. It's totally open. Kansas City is still Kansas City, but they're not invincible. The Chargers are competitive, but we're only one game behind them. Baltimore, Buffalo, all these teams are strong, but nobody has run away with it. Denver is currently the third seed in the conference. Third position. That means home playoff games. That means field advantage. That means a real chance to go far, very far. As far as we haven't gone in years. And here comes the question I want you to reflect on. If there's a year to be aggressive at the trade deadline, wouldn't it be exactly this one? If there's a time to put all your chips on the table and go all in, isn't it now? When was the last time we had an opportunity as clear as this? Speak up in the comments, Broncos Country. Do you think George Payton is going to make a move? Do you believe we should go after a veteran cornerback on the market? Or do you fully trust the kids we have on the roster? Because look, I understand both sides. On one hand, there's the argument of not messing with the team that's winning. 5 straight wins is no small thing. The locker room is united, the chemistry is working, the defensive system is running. Why risk bringing someone from outside and potentially mess up this dynamic? But on the other side, there's the reality argument. And the reality is that we're going to face top-tier offenses in the playoffs. We're going to face elite quarterbacks who will test our secondary from the first to the last snap. We're going to need every advantage possible to compete with the best in the conference. Think about who we might face in January. Think about the receivers we're going to have to cover. Think about the offensive schemes we're going to have to stop. Now think about doing all that without Patrick Surtain II for most of the regular season and having to rely only on young and inexperienced players at the most critical positions in the secondary. I'm not saying Riley Moss isn't good. He is. I'm not saying Jaquan McMillian can't play. He can, and I'm definitely not undermining Jahdae Barron's potential, who seems to be a real prospect. But there's a difference between potential and proven production when the lights are brightest. Tight end continues to be a need. We need someone who can block on the line consistently and be a reliable safety valve on passing plays. How many times this season did you miss having that traditional tight end making a difference? I felt it several times. Wide receiver is another interesting point. We have good options, no doubt. But when you look at the teams that go far in the playoffs, they usually have 3, 4, sometimes 5 receivers who can make a difference. Having more weapons is never too much in modern football. And linebacker, even with Greenlaw coming back, can still be a position to consider. Greenlaw is an excellent player when healthy, but he's coming back from injury. Will he be in game shape immediately? Will he be able to play the amount of snaps we need from him? These are valid questions. But back to the main point, family. With Surtain out, the urgency has increased a lot. Before this injury, there were already arguments for making moves at the deadline. Now it's an obligation. Not doing anything would be letting a golden opportunity slip by to maximize our chances this season. Let's be realistic. Patrick Surtain II won't be available for at least 4 weeks, probably more. That means we're going to face several important games, possibly decisive for playoff seeding, without our best defender. Each of these games could make the difference between having field advantage in the playoffs or having to travel. And look, I know adding players via trade isn't simple. It has to make financial sense. It has to make sense for the locker room. It has to be someone who fits into the defensive system. There's no point bringing in a big name who can't execute what the defensive coordinator asks, but there are certainly options available. Teams that are out of the playoff race and have quality veterans who could help. Experienced cornerbacks who know different schemes and can adapt quickly. Players who've been through pressure moments and know what's necessary to win in January. What do you think, Broncos Country? Which position should be the absolute priority? If you could choose just one addition before the deadline, would it be cornerback because of Surtain's injury? Would it be tight end because it's a persistent need? Or would it be a completely different position? Let me give you my honest opinion. I think cornerback became priority number 1 Not that the other positions aren't important, but when you lose the Defensive Player of the Year, you have to react. You can't just cross your arms and hope everything works out. Imagine if we could bring in a veteran cornerback, someone who's already played in playoffs, someone who can not only cover quality receivers, but also teach and accelerate the development of the younger guys. It would be a move that would show the entire locker room that the front office is committed to winning now, not in the future, but now. And there's another aspect people don't talk about much. When you make an aggressive move at the trade deadline, you send a message to your players. You're saying, I believe in this group, I think we can go far, and I'm willing to invest resources to give you the best possible tools. This can be extremely motivating for a locker room. Seeing that the organization is doing everything in its power to win can elevate everyone's level of commitment. It can be that extra push that transforms a good season into a special season. Now, of course, there's risk. Every move has risk. You can bring in someone who doesn't fit. You can spend resources and not see the expected return. You can create uncomfortable situations in the locker room if the chemistry doesn't work. But you know what's worse than taking a risk? It's not trying. It's getting to February and thinking, what if we had made that move? Look at the teams that have won recently. Many of them made aggressive moves at the deadline. They understood that windows of opportunity don't stay open forever. They took advantage of the moment when they had a competitive team and did what was necessary to maximize their chances. We have a young quarterback who's evolving. We have a defense that, when healthy, is one of the best in the league. We have an experienced coach who knows what's necessary to win. We have momentum with 5 straight wins. We have everything to make a deep playoff run, but for that to happen, we need to be complete. We need to have depth at all critical positions. We need to have options when injuries happen, because injuries always happen in football. It's part of the game. The question is how you respond to them. So, Denver Broncos family, how do you think we should respond? Drop it in the comments. I want to know your opinion. Do you trust the current roster to hold down the fort without Surtain? Or do you think we need reinforcements urgently? Leave a like if you're worried about the secondary. Leave a like if you think the front office needs to act. And leave a like if you simply love this team and want to see us go far this season, because at the end of the day, it's about that. It's about doing everything in our power to give this team the best possible chance to bring a trophy back to Denver. It's about having no regrets. It's about looking back and knowing we did everything right. The deadline is November 4th. That gives George Payton a few days to work the phones, talk to other general managers, evaluate options, make the numbers work. A few days to potentially change the course of this season. Let's hope he takes advantage of that time. Let's hope we see some moves that make sense. And let's continue supporting this team regardless of what happens, because that's what the Denver Broncos family does. We support through good times and bad, but let me be clear, this is not a bad time. Far from it. 5 straight wins, 3rd seed in the AFC, one of the hottest teams in the league. This is a time to be seized. A time to be maximized. A time that could define an entire generation of football in Denver. Comment below what you would do if you were the general manager. What would be your first move? Who would you try to bring in? How much would you be willing to pay in terms of draft picks? These conversations are what make our community special. Share this video with that friend of yours who's also Broncos Country, the one who's as excited as you are about this season, the one who also wants to see this team go far. Let's spread the word and show everyone that the Denver Broncos family is alive and strong, and stay tuned to the channel because in the coming weeks, there's going to be a lot of content. A lot. Game analysis, updates on Surtain's recovery, news about possible moves at the trade deadline, everything you need to know to follow this team in the best way possible. Till the next video, Broncos Country. And remember, whatever move the front office makes or doesn't make, we'll be here, supporting, cheering, and believing. Because that's what we do. That's what makes us special. See you later.